Some people scream "I love you" with flowers. Others shout it through late-night texts or kisses on the forehead. But avoidants, they whisper it with silent type and you miss it because you're listening for words instead of watching their actions. Today, I want to show you what love looks like when fear and longing live inside the same heart. They don't flood your life with romantic words. They won't be the ones writing you poetry or saying, "I miss you," every other hour. But when life hits hard, when your world spins out of control, they show up, and not just in a casual, checking in kind of way. I mean, really show up, quiet, grounded, present. That's how avoidants express love. When the chaos in your life peaks, they become the calm. When you're breaking, they become the glue, not through grand gestures, but with unwavering presence. See, love doesn't always come wrapped in roses or Instagram captions. Sometimes it walks in the room without a word, sits down next to you, and just stays. That's what an avoidant does when they care. Because despite all the fear, despite the walls they've built so carefully over the years, there's something stronger inside them, a loyalty that activates when you're in pain. That's the moment their love becomes unmistakable. You see, avoidants were wired to survive through self-protection. Vulnerability to them can feel like danger. But when someone they love is hurting, that protective mechanism shifts. Suddenly, they're not guarding themselves, they're guarding you. They won't say, "I'm here for you," 100 times, but they will pick you up when no one else does. They will do what needs to be done without being asked. They will sit with you in silence, hold space for your tears, and try, awkwardly and perfectly, to keep you together. And the truth is, that's not easy for them. Showing up during a crisis means stepping into emotional intensity, something avoidants usually run from. But when they choose to stay, to witness your pain, running away never works. To help carry your burden, they're saying, "I love you," in the most powerful way they know how. They won't call it love. They may not even understand that's what they're doing. But you'll feel it in their actions, in their timing, in the fact that out of waiver works. Out of all the moments they could have pulled away, this is when they leaned in. That's when you realize they may not be fluent in the language of emotion, but when the moment is real, when it truly matters, they speak love through action. And that action is louder than any words they'll ever say. Most people think that when someone pulls away, it's because they've stopped caring. But that's not the truth when it comes to someone with an avoidant attachment style. When they create distance, it's not always to push you away. It's often to protect the connection in the only way they know how. And I know that might sound backward. You might wonder, if they love me, why would they step back? Why not come closer? Because for an avoidant, closeness can feel like danger, and space can feel like survival. They don't distance themselves because you don't matter. They do it because you matter too much. Intimacy triggers their deepest fears of being overwhelmed, of losing their independence, of being consumed or not being enough. So rather than risk saying or doing something that might damage the relationship, they retreat. That retreat isn't rejection. It's a defense mechanism born from years of emotional conditioning. Think about this. When you're afraid of fire, you don't go running toward it. But if someone you care about is inside that fire, you might inch closer, cautiously, terrified the whole way. That's what avoidants do with love. They get close, it gets hot, and suddenly they're gasping for air, needing space to regulate. That space is not about escape, it's about preservation. Here's what most people miss, the distance they create. It's filled with thought. They're analyzing everything, what they fear, how much they're risking, how much they care. They may look emotionally shut off on the outside, but inside, it's loud. It's chaos. And that withdrawal is often their way of not destroying something they actually want to protect. What they're trying to say, but can't, is this: I don't want to lose you, but I also don't want to lose myself. And so they pause, they breathe, they build just enough space to feel safe again. It's not about playing games. It's not emotional manipulation. It's their nervous system doing what it was trained to do. Create space before it collapses under pressure. The ones who truly love you don't always hold on tight. Sometimes they let go for a moment, not because they've stopped caring, but because they're trying to find a way to stay without drowning. The space they create is not absence. It's a silent promising, I want this, but I need to survive it too. When an avoidant loves you, they may not say much about themselves. They may not open up easily or share their inner world freely. But watch how they listen. Watch how they absorb the smallest details of your life. The way your voice softens when you talk about your childhood, the story you tell about your first heartbreak, the way your eyes light up when you talk about a dream you haven't dared to chase. They'll remember it all, not because they're just good listeners, but because they care more than they'll ever admit. This is one of the most misunderstood expressions of love from someone with an avoidant attachment style. On the surface, they seem emotionally reserved, even cold, but underneath that stillness is a heart that is constantly scanning, observing, constantly feeling. Just in silence, they gather your details like treasures, not because they're analyzing you, but because they're memorizing you. It's their quiet devotion, their way of saying, "You matter enough for me to know you deeply, even if I can't show you mine." They may never tell you about the night they cried themselves to sleep. They may never explain why certain moments trigger them, why they shut down when conflict arises, or why they look away when emotions get too raw. They've built walls around their heart, not to keep love out, but to keep pain from flooding in again. Vulnerability to them feels like exposure, and exposure feels like risk. So they keep their inner life guarded, sometimes even from themselves. But here's the paradox: in their silence, they're forming attachment. In their restraint, they're building trust. And in their listening, they're investing. They won't bombard you with compliments. They won't overwhelm you with emotional declarations. But they'll notice when your tone changes. They'll remember the date of job interview you were nervous about. They'll know when you're pretending to be okay. And they'll sit with you, not asking questions, just offering quiet presence. That's love. Their version of it. It's not loud. It doesn't seek attention. It doesn't beg to be acknowledged. But it's there, strong, loyal, deep. And it's in the way they listen, not to reply, but to understand you. Because for them, truly knowing you is the only way they know how to love you. When an avoidant cares about you, they won't shower you with flowery words. You might not hear constant "I love yous," or get romantic notes or public displays of affection. But what you will get, what you'll always get, is action. Solid, dependable, meaningful action. Not the kind that looks good on social media. The kind that gets your car fixed without you asking. The kind that shows up with groceries when you're sick. The kind that quietly solves the problems you mentioned only once in passing. To them, words are risky. Words can be misunderstood. Words can open doors they're not ready to walk through. But doing something for you, that's their love language. That's where they feel safe, useful, strong. It's how they feel worthy of connection. By proving themselves through what they can do, not what they can say. You might not get, "I'm thinking about you," but suddenly your leaky faucet is fixed. You might not hear, "I miss you," but your favorite snack is stocked in their kitchen. That's not coincidence. That's intention. That's how avoidants express care without saying a word. See, growing up, many avoidants learned that emotions weren't safe. They weren't taught to express vulnerability or sit in emotional conversations. But they were often taught to be independent, to be reliable, to solve things. So when love enters the picture, they reach for the one tool they trust: usefulness. They may not know how to sit in the storm of your feelings, but they'll build a shelter for you. They may not talk about their love, but they'll carry your burdens like they're their own. And sometimes you might miss this. You might overlook the significance of their help because it doesn't look like the kind of love you're used to. But if you pause and really see it, how intentional, how consistent, how thoughtful those gestures are, you'll realize that their version of love is no less powerful. It's just quieter. It's hidden in service. It's wrapped in problem solving. It shows up not in declarations, but in dedication. They may never tell you, "You're everything to me," but they'll make sure you're warm, safe, and taken care of, often without ever being asked. That's not indifference. That's devotion, expressed the only way they've learned how: by doing, not saying. Avoidants are not the kind of people who let just anyone into their inner world. Their routines, their personal space, the little habits they've formed to feel safe, these are sacred to them. So when they start inviting you into those quiet corners of their life, It's not a small gesture. It's a signal, a subtle but powerful declaration. You're starting to matter to me. They won't say it outright. They won't make grand proclamations. But one day, they'll casually ask if you want to join them for their Sunday morning coffee ritual, or they'll share a playlist they've been listening to for years, one they've never shared with anyone else. That's not random. That's trust. That's emotional intimacy wrapped in the disguise of casual moments. You might think it's just coffee or it's just a movie they like, but it's not. These are pieces of their identity, fragments of the life they've built alone, safely, independently. Letting you into that space means letting go of control. It means letting themselves be seen, even just a little. And for someone who's spent most of their life protecting themselves from emotional exposure, that is love in motion. They're not trying to impress you with extravagance. They're inviting you into their rhythm. They want to see if your presence can coexist with their peace. And if you respond with respect, if you show up not trying to change them but to understand them, that invitation will grow. Bit by bit, they'll start opening doors they've always kept locked. Not with speeches, but with gestures, like cooking dinner and turning on music they love, or asking your opinion on something they usually keep private. And it won't be fast, it won't be dramatic, but it will be real. You'll notice the shift not in what they say, but in where they place you. Suddenly, you're in their routine. You're woven into their solitude. You're no longer someone they entertain. You're someone they trust with their quiet. That's rare. That's raw. That's a kind of intimacy most people miss because they're too busy listening for the loud kind of love. But if you slow down, if you pay attention, you'll realize that when an avoidant lets you into their rituals, they're doing something they don't do easily. They're making space for you, not just in their life, but in their heart. Avoidants aren't great with apologies. They won't sit you down, look you in the eyes, and pour their heart out in a long, emotional speech about what they did wrong. For many of them, those moments feel overwhelming, exposing, even paralyzing. The words get stuck in their throat, buried under years of conditioning that told them vulnerability is weakness. So they don't apologize the way most people do, with words. They do it through change. You may never hear, "I'm sorry I hurt you." But what you will see, if you're paying attention, is that they stop doing the thing that caused the pain. The sarcasm gets softer. The silence after conflict doesn't last as long. The distance that once felt endless starts to close quicker than before. That's how they communicate regret. That's how they try to repair what they struggled to acknowledge out loud. For avoidance, words can feel like a trap. Saying, "I'm sorry," opens the door to more questions, more emotion, more vulnerability. And they've spent most of their life trying to avoid all of that. But even if they can't say it, they feel it deeply, and in their own quiet way, they begin to adjust. Not because they've suddenly mastered emotional communication, but because their heart is slowly overriding their fear. And this shift isn't easy for them. It's not casual. It takes a massive internal battle just to get to the point where they can admit to themselves that they were wrong, that they caused pain. But if they love you, if they value you, they will try, they will reflect, they will wrestle with their defensiveness. And then, without a grand announcement, they will begin to behave differently. That shift in behavior is their unspoken apology. It's their way of saying, "I saw how that hurt you, and I want to be better." Even if I don't know how to say it yet, it's subtle, but it's real. You'll notice they pause before reacting. They listen more. They become a little more available, a little more intentional. That evolution might not satisfy your craving for verbal closure, but it's the most authentic offering they can give. Because for avoidance, change is not just a sign of growth, it's a sign of love. When they alter a behavior for you, especially one tied to their deepest fears, they're saying more than words ever could. They're saying, "You matter enough to make me choose discomfort over distance." Avoidants are wired to run. When things get emotionally intense, when relationships start to feel too close, too vulnerable, too unpredictable, they retreat. It's not because they're heartless. It's because their nervous system is conditioned to believe that intimacy equals danger. That closeness means losing control. That love, no matter how beautiful, can turn into pain without warning. So when someone with an avoidant pattern stays, especially when things get hard, it means everything. They are masters of self-protection. They know how to shut down, how to disappear emotionally while still being physically present. They know how to distract themselves, how to detach from their feelings. That's their comfort zone. So when they make the choice to remain connected, even through discomfort, even through conflict, that's not just resilience, that's love. And you might not even notice it at first. It won't be loud or dramatic. It will look like them texting back instead of going silent after an argument. It will look like them staying in the room when emotions rise rather than walking out. It will look like them showing up again the next day, even if they don't know exactly how to fix things. That's how they say, "I'm still here," not through promises or declarations, but through presence. This is one of the most profound forms of love and avoidant can giving the decision to not run, because staying forces them to confront everything they've spent years avoiding, the fear of being hurt, the discomfort of emotional honesty, the vulnerability of needing someone. And yet, when they care about you deeply, they stay. They lean in, even if just a little. They fight their instinct to escape because something about you makes it worth the effort. They won't say, "I'm choosing you even though I'm scared." But that's exactly what they're doing. Every time they resist the urge to shut down, every time they take a breath and stay present instead of retreating, every time they come back after needing space, that's love. Raw, imperfect, courageous love. And the truth is, for someone who was never taught how to feel safe in closeness, staying is not just a gesture. It's a breakthrough. It's them choosing connection over protection, choosing growth over comfort, choosing you even when every old instinct tells them to run. And that choice is louder than 1,000 words. Love doesn't always speak in the language we expect. Sometimes it doesn't come in "I love yous" or passionate declarations under the stars. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's cautious. And sometimes it's scared. When you're dealing with someone with an avoidant attachment style, love isn't expressed through the usual channels. It's not what they say. It's what they do. It's in their silence, their presence, their consistency. It's in the way they manage their fears just enough to stay, to care, to try. That kind of love may not come with grand gestures, but it's deep, it's real, and it's hard-won. You see, avoidants are not broken. They're not cold or heartless. They've simply been shaped by a history that taught them closeness is dangerous, vulnerability is risky, and self-reliance is survival. So when they begin to let someone in, even in small ways, when they start to show up during hard times, when they create space not to leave to breathe, when they listen more than they speak, that's love revealing itself in the only way they've learned to show it. It may not be obvious. It may not be loud, but it's there underneath the surface, trying to speak a different emotional dialect. And if you're someone on the receiving end of that kind of love, it's important to stop expecting them to express affection the way you do. Start seeing what they're showing you instead. Look at the consistency, the small efforts, the emotional shifts. Watch how they begin to include you in their world. Watch how they start doing things for you, not to impress you, but to support you. Their apology is in their growth. Their commitment is in their staying. Their vulnerability is in the space they make for you inside their quiet. When you begin to understand that, you stop feeling unloved and start feeling something even more powerful, trusted. So don't judge the depth of an avoidant's love by the volume of their words. Judge it by the risks they take to show up, the fears they face to be close, and the growth they commit to, just to love you the best way they know how. Because in the end, the avoidant may never say, "I love you," the way you imagined. But if you learn to listen with your heart instead of your ears, you'll realize they've been saying it all along. If this message resonated with you, if it made you feel seen, understood, or simply helped you look at avoidant love in a new way, then this video did its job. Remember, we're all learning how to love better, how to love through fear, through silence, through wounds we never asked for. And if you're on that journey, you are not alone. I see you. I honor your growth. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story, your breakthroughs, or even your questions. Donating never works. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because we've got more powerful content coming to help you understand love, healing, and connection on a deeper level. Until next time, take care of your heart. Speak less fear, love with more courage. And remember, real love is rarely loud, but it's always true. Goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.